All right, we are now into that Dallas ISD District 558 Division Two, Digsy. When you talk about this district for the past, seems like million years, we talk about South Oak Cliff and then everybody else. I have a feeling that's the way it's going to go again this year. But let's talk about South Oak Cliff and let's talk about how they're going to try to rebound from not winning a state title again last year. They lost to a Houston team, Richmond Randall, newcomer squad. Don't get upset. I got two shows I got to deal with, so let's give Houston at least a win. They got one. All right, talk to me about Sock this year, though.
And again, we joked about this 2 weeks ago on the campfire. You got to listen to all of our campfires because, we talk about things a month ago, 2 months ago. And what we're talking about with South Oak Cliff, and it's 2025. It's not 2021, 2022, 2023. This is a team that is looking at December. It's a team that's looking at AT&T. And now they've got 2 years of that hunger building up in them. And they've got in the most talented lineup in this district. But I think, relative to some of their other teams. I don't know that this team is a de facto, state champion or a de facto team that's going to make it to the state championship. They've got some holes. They've got some questions they have to answer. And primarily, they got to answer who's going to be that quarterback and who's going to be that offensive leader because their defense, that death row defense, is going to be good. Coach Kyle Ward and what he does and gets ready and what he has coming back, it's legendary. And I look at just their defensive, their talent. Jamarian Phillips, Corday Houston. They've got Jaquan Sterling and Ricky Giles and Marcel Gibson. This defense is going to be the best defense in 5A Division Two. If the offense can figure it out and find that signal caller, whether it's by transfer, whether it's homegrown, whether it's a diamond in the rough just waiting to come out and shine, that's what's really going to determine the team for South Oak Cliff this year. But one thing that Ward, we talk about the infrastructure all the time, and this team has really their offensive line is coming along. Two offensive linemen who are you got to highlight Bryson Ramsey Brooks. And if that name sounds a little bit familiar, that Ramsey Brooks, if you remember the big guy from a couple of years ago from the state
Mm-hmm.
champion team, that's his little brother. And who knows what that's going to be? That guy was 400 pounds,
Yeah.
Ramsey Brooks. So what's little brother going to look like? But this, in kind of our spring football and what I'm seeing from the recruiting side, everybody is talking about Brian Swanson, the really talented offensive lineman. He's basically got, he can name his school. He's already got Florida offers, Texas, Oklahoma interest. So they've got two really talented D1 linemen, at least that we know about. So who's going to come in there and kind of steady things? We do know that Mikhail Trotter, the running back, had 1,000 yards last year, 1,170 with 18 touchdowns. Levon Morton contributed with 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. But I got to know who's going to be the quarterback, Ward.
I don't know. That's a good question, and it's something that very few teams can tinker with throughout the season. But when you have a team like Sock, I mean, even Duncanville and DeSoto, yeah, we know we're in the playoffs when the season starts, but we still are playing for that district title. Sock is one of those few teams where, whether they admit it or not, they already know they have the district title before, like right now in May. Their first game that they're really worried about is probably game 12 or 13. So you can tinker around and figure out who can step up at quarterback plenty in this district. And maybe that's something that they will do to, they'll throw out somebody in the first couple of games, then maybe get 2-3 quarterbacks to try during an individual game.
But the problem I have with South Oak Cliff and thinking about them regionally is the last 2 weeks we just talked about quarterbacks galore. I mean, we talked about Zandre Williams and McGuire Gasperson and Jacob Janisek and just really talented quarterbacks who they might end up seeing in the state semifinals. But we're not talking about that with South Oak Cliff yet. Now, by the time we're doing our podcast, we may see that quarterback emerge. But I need, for me, especially with all the talent you've got, and then you got, the perennial powerhouses in Huntsville. I think they had a sophomore last year who was playing really well in PNG. So they got to look and figure out some of this offensive consistency, unless the defense is just that good that can lead them there. But this district does have some other intrigue in it,
Yeah.
and who's going to be number two, who's going to make the playoffs. And I think we're going to look at Hillcrest as kind of that number two team because they've got a really good quarterback in Asher Randall coming back, and they've got some talented infrastructure. Tight end Dewan Corbin, who is just absolutely a fantastic tight end, a really good really good recruit. You might even see him play on the defensive side of the ball if you have to go both ways. Hillcrest being number 2 last year and returning their quarterback, I think that they're going to be the number 2 spot. But the kind of the story that everybody talked about last year and was at the end of the year was Samuel. And Samuel was kind of that surprise team. They had a coach, Danny Cobbin, come from Seagoville as the defensive coordinator when Seagoville kind of broke up, and all of a sudden Samuel just got on fire. But they found that they had to forfeit all of their games. The coach got suspended for 2 years. So what's Samuel going to be? That's going to be kind of an X factor. Are those kids that came over from Seagoville going to go back to Seagoville, or are they going to stay at Samuel? So I have a hard time wondering what Samuel's going to be. You could see Samuel being a team that can compete for the playoffs still, or they could be a team that's at the bottom if they lose a lot of their players and talent that were kind of unseen players, but you put them on the team and they played great last year. But I think a team that is going to be good, even though they lost their quarterback last year and they lost their head coach, is Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson's been one of the consistent teams in Dallas ISD that's been there at the top. Keelan Kincaid, the former SMU star, is coming over as the head coach over there. And they got Ethan Ramirez, 1,000-yard all-district running back, coming back. I think Woodrow Wilson is going to be a team that's going to be in the playoffs. But number 4 in this district is wide open. Is it going to be Samuel? Are they going to retain enough talent? Is it going to be Seagoville, who's got Adam West coming back and who was there just 2 years ago? Or is it going to be Adamson? Adamson has another running back who is fantastic in Cameron White. I think Adamson might be right there, ready to compete at the ready for this playoff spot. So I think there's 3 teams that are going to be battling for that 4th playoff spot, which is going to be fun. I think when we have playoff drama, because, Ward, in 2022 and 2023, we had no drama in this district because of the zone system. It's just like, okay, these 2 teams and these 2 teams. And we pretty much knew in October who was going to be in the playoffs, and we just had to seed them. This year, it's going to be fun to see this district with the 4th spot open.
Yeah, and what's it going to take for teams like Spruce and TJ? I feel like we talk about this district a lot, and it's always the tail end of this podcast, this district breakdown, that we talk about those 2 teams. How can they get their fortunes turned around to at least compete for a playoff? Is it just the athletes just aren't going to go there, or is it going to take 1 or 2 big athletes at the same time to go to that school and maybe each out a playoff spot?
One thing I love that we do in our podcast, we talk about everybody. It's like we don't ignore teams. We talked about Thomas Jefferson quite a bit because they were one of those teams that actually did overachieve. When you're in that bottom tier and you move up to the next tier, it might be kind of go under the radar, but this is a team that overachieved by my metrics by 3 touchdowns in just about every game. But they graduated almost 2,000 yards of offense. They had some seniors that went through the program for 4 years and got better and took their licks. So how do you replace that? So that's going to be hard for Thomas Jefferson to bounce back. They were 4-6 last year. I think they only had 3 of those games were wins, and they had a forfeit win. But Spruce is a team that I think could take that next step. They have Javon Runnels at quarterback. He's a very talented. He was a sophomore last year. He's going to be a junior this year. Spruce could be that team that, even though it might only go to 3-7 or 2-8, they may take that next step up and get a little bit better just because of some of the talented players that they have coming back. But can they get that offensive line? Can they get the 7-on-7 work in? That's what they're going to have to do to take that next step up. So I think Spruce is kind of my sleeper team if you're looking for the Thomas Jefferson of this district, who might get a little bit better, but it's not necessarily going to come across as wins and losses. It's just going to come across in competitive games and pushing teams a little bit further.
Yeah, that always seems to be the key in Dallas ISD squads, to get not even a solid, but a decent offensive line, so your athletic players in the back aren't running for their lives every single game. Who do you got 1 through 9 here?
Well, I got South Oak Cliff as our number 1 team. I know that is a surprise to everybody. I got Hillcrest number 2. I've got Woodrow Wilson number 3. I'm going to stick with Samuel number 4, Seagoville number 5, Adamson number 6, Thomas Jefferson number 7, and I got Spruce number 8. We have left the world of the 9-team districts, and we have a little bit of normalcy now.